Hello, everyone. Hello. I am bringing Mrs. Rashada on with me today. Super excited to have you here. Hello.
Hello, and sorry I have to be Mrs. Rashada today. I don't know how to change.
It's all good. All good. All okay. Totally okay. And we are just getting started here. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Conscious Educator Playground. And super excited to have Mrs. Rashada, Shiba, on with me again today.
Put it in the
we're gonna dive in, but first, just so that everyone can know kind of how amazing you are, can you share a little bit maybe about how long you've been in education and what you're doing right now?
Yes. Okay. So I've been in education for 12 years, and I'm now an English teacher again. For the last 5 years, I was an instructional coach as well as a behavior strategist. And I am licensed in the District of Columbia and in Nevada as well to be an administrator. And I went through the whole program to be an assistant principal in CCSD, but I got this opportunity to teach in Washington, D.C. And currently this semester, I'm teaching film studies, which is new for me. But I just consider it as like books, but in a film form.
Right?
Then,
very cool.
Oh, yes. And then I also teach freshman English. So I have the babies this year.
Okay. So I wanted you to give that little bit of context because we're going to dive into talking about burnout today. And we call this the anti-burnout, how to create an anti-burnout culture. Because I don't know who else is watching the headlines of, like, it seems like so many publications are picking up this great resignation that's happening in education. And teachers have already, there's already been a shortage, right? Even pre-pandemic. The system has been broken for a really long time. Burnout has been prevalent in the system of education for a really long time. This is not new. This is just a next level, right? And this next level is pushing educators to the brink of peace out. Like, my soul needs to teach children, and yet this is not what I signed up for. And those of us who are in this world of education, no matter which level of educator you are, whether you're in the formal K-12 public school system, whether that's here in the US or in any other country, or you are a teacher of whatever else it is you are teaching, to whatever age you are teaching something to. So like I said last week, we're all teachers, we're all students. We're all trying to figure out this journey of life. And so I wanted to bring up this, how to create an anti-burnout culture today, because when we're constantly focused on all of the burnout that's happening, we may be missing how to navigate through it, right? There's so many different solutions, different ways to go about it, as there are different versions of burnout. So Shiva, I'd love for you to kind of tap into and chat with us a little bit about what you're seeing through your lens within the public school system around the different types of burnout that either you've experienced personally or you're watching others experience, knowing that this translates across industry. This is really a human burnout thing, but let's share the examples that are happening in the school systems.
Okay, well, I can definitely say that, especially with the virtual education, right? You know, for the last couple of years, most districts were either hybrid or virtual, and it was really just having to learn all of the new technologies. There were districts, because we weren't really ready to go virtual, you know, no one had planned for the pandemic to happen. You had schools that weren't even using the same platforms, right? Maybe teacher A was using Google Classroom, teacher B was using Microsoft Teams. So really just for so many teachers to still have to teach the curriculum and then to have to deal with all the extras that came with learning the technology. that definitely created a lot of burnout. I think now being back in person and, going to school full time, I think a lot of people are struggling with a lot of the social and emotional aspects of this, right? Worrying about not getting sick, worrying about students who you don't see for 2 or 3 weeks, not knowing if they're struggling with, sickness or if it's someone in their family, and then still being able to deliver just a top-notch education, which is what we want as educators with all of the new COVID protocols, right? I know in my school district, they want us to try to be 6 feet away from students as much as possible. And for teachers who were used to having high engagement in their classes and students working together, to now having to place the students in rows, right, in seating charts, and we can't really divert from that for contact tracing purposes. This has become a lot for teachers, really a lot. And for teachers who have their own families, right? What do they do if their own children get sick or their spouse gets sick or their, elderly parents get sick? So I think, Sandy, what I'm seeing the most of, especially right now, is that.
Yeah. It's this whole nother layer of things to learn, right? And we saw it in the beginning of the pandemic, is watching the drastic learning curve from a technology perspective. And I heard you touch on that, right? Yes. And now it's this whole becoming an epidemiologist almost, right? And I need to be schooled in what I didn't even know what contact tracing, I'm smart enough to kind of figure it out based upon the words, but pre-2020, I didn't, that wasn't in my world, right? Let alone in the schools, to be able to talk about culture in a world where we are so hyper mindful of keeping each other healthy. And yet we're framing it in a way where it's not about let's stay healthy, it's let's not get sick. And so everything is about what we don't want. And all of the conversations, all of the headlines are talking about everything that's going wrong and all of the problems. And they're important to talk about, right? It's important to assess the current reality of what's happening. And this is, I was talking to a principal that I've been coaching for several years, and we started having the conversation around your original dream. So if we can all kind of think back to when you first decided to become an educator, and this is an exercise that I do a lot in my coaching, because if we don't anchor in to the stories that are looming in our head, sometimes unconsciously, right? They just live back there. Because at some point in time, you decided, or maybe you don't remember the exact decision point because it's been in your bones since you were born. You were, a teacher at 2, maybe, because some of us were just a teacher at 2 years old, and our parents just knew, right? And others of us, it was a conscious decision at some point to go, yes, this is my path. Whatever it was, we all have that point when it's, oh, this is my dream. And we make up stories in our head about what it's going to be like. And I am 99.9% sure no one ever said, I'm going to be teaching during a global pandemic, and we're going to have to do contact tracing, and we're going to have to do, and it's going to be the best time of my life. No, no one ever said that. No one's dream was ever that, right? So, and yet here we are. This is our current reality. So if we can all like think back, and Shiva, if you can kind of share yours, and you mentioned you've been teaching for 12 years, or you've been an educator for 12 years. Prior to that, you were an educator of a different type, right? You had different roles and hats, and it just wasn't labeled as a teacher. But when was that decision, and what was that original dream of why you made this choice to become an educator?
So I didn't go to teaching school. I started out as a full-time substitute teacher. And I think, when the original dream formed, it was just when I was able to be engaged, and I started out in elementary with those little faces, and I realized that you could teach and still be kind. Because I found when I was going to school, I never really felt like any of my teachers cared about me. And I'm sure they did, but from a child's perspective, I never felt like that.
Right.
So I think that in that first year of substitute teaching, I really just found a joy for working with kids and being able to see, that spark, like, wow, I learned something. Mm-hmm. And the relationships that I was able to build, it was phenomenal. So what really prompted me to go ahead and get licensed, get licensed the right way and learn how to really was just, I saw myself in those students and I thought, how did I want to feel as a student? And what would have made me even better as an adult? And I said, I want to learn that. And I'm going to pour it into every child that I'm honored to teach. And my original dream was to just create a safe environment where kids could grow, where they could be themselves, and not only just learn from me then, but I would spark and inspire them to be lifelong learners.
Right. And we talked about creating that culture of safety, right?
Absolutely.
And it's the very on purposeness of creating that type of environment that the majority of educators actually had a portion of that in their original dream, right? And that it would be fun, it would be welcoming. And every educator I've ever asked this question to has a version of that dream. And then there's a point when you get into it, and these are the things that start causing the burnout, right? Where the current reality clashes with that original dream. And you're like, what? This doesn't even make sense to my cells. And yet it is the reality of what you're facing on a daily basis. A mandate for this, a mandate for this, a form for this, a form for that. Not that they are not valuable, the majority of them, depending on which form you're thinking of, which mandate you're thinking of. The intention behind them is, I'm going to use the word never, because I generously assume that no human that creates one of those mandates has an intention to harm children or the teachers that serve them. The intention, right? And yet how it lands in practice is not always connected to the original intention, which is also connected to our original dream and the disconnect from our current reality. And often what happens in that shift is we start shooting ourselves, because connected in that original dream is also who I'm supposed to be, who I should be, whatever word you want to choose, right? As this role, whether it's as a classroom teacher, whether it's as an administrator, whether it's as a district leader, whether it's as a coach, a therapist, whatever role or job we take on in this life, we have a story associated to it of what that should look like. And so a lot of the things that I've heard, let's just talk about the role of an administrator, right? And I should have a happy staff. I should have a clean building, organized systems. I should know my entire community. Everyone should be happy and thriving, and we should have student achievement raising every day. And we should have, I should be an advocate for each and every student. I need to be a role model. I need to be visibly perfect and hold it all together. We're human, right? And so when we should ourselves to death, we create burnout happening internally just based upon that story we're making up in our head. Because when we actually go down to the reality, when we look at our colleagues who are in similar roles, there's no part of us that looks at them and shoulds all over them to be whatever version of perfect we've made up in our head. We'll often give grace, right? And I say so often, and this is kind of a human universal thing, if I wouldn't say it to my best friend, why am I saying it to myself up here? And this is that piece where when we talk about creating an anti-burnout culture, it becomes this culture where we actually get to own who we're showing up as. We get to be the most authentic version of ourselves. Because the third step in this, the original dream, current reality, the third step in is designing your future on purpose, right? What's tomorrow going to be like now with this new information? So Shiba, you and I were chatting, I think it was yesterday, it might've been Monday, about like your original dream and your current reality and the strategies that you use to actually have tomorrow and today even happen on purpose, knowing all of that information. Because once you bring that to your awareness, like, oh, that's why I'm pissed off and frustrated, is because my dream of what this should look like is definitely not what it is. And okay, so now that we know that, what are we going to do about it? Because until we take our power back and ownership of not only who we're showing up as, but the behaviors, thoughts, actions that we're having on a daily basis, and speaking up for what's okay and what's not okay, and driving change to achieve that, whether that's change within us or communicating with others around us to actually implement that change, we're stuck, right? And that's what creates that burnout. And if we're not creating the safe environment, which we talked about last week, to foster those conversations and empower people to actually start thinking and talking that way, we're continuing to unintentionally diminish ourselves and those around us. We're operating from a not enough shame bat conversation in our own head, let alone how we're communicating with others, right? So Shiva, I just kind of went on. I just want you to kind of add in with the strategies that you use to really kind of flip. And not that it's not perfect, right? You're going to have days where you're burnt out and you're like, peace out, I'm tired. Like it's 6 o'clock and I don't care, I'm going to bed, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I was just out here having a mini heat. It was almost an argument. Student, and I said, not today, because it's going to be a good day. So let me talk about some of the strategies that I've used in what I would coach my teachers when I was an instructional coach. So really, it's all about priorities, right? Like you said, you have this dream in your head. Let go of the dream. As far as it's going to be in the school, that dream is created in your own space. When you close that door, you are teaching your kids. And first of all, you have to already know that you're a professional. You have everything it is that you need. And I think, and you mentioned that somewhere in there, Sandy, if we're comparing ourselves to the teacher across the hall, you're never going to be doing what she's doing. She doesn't have the same students that you have. So I make things a priority. If I know that I can't grade all the papers tonight, I have to make sure that my priority is the students in the room, and that I'm going to be ready for them when they show up, because here's the thing, they are going to show up every morning. So maybe I'll focus on planning, right? If I know I'm going to be a couple of days late on the grades. And really what I've done this semester that has helped me out tremendously. Oh, Sandy, the first time, just being ridiculously authentic and open with parents. I know this is a tough time for your students. It's a tough time for me too. I'm transitioning back into the classroom, and I promise if it takes me a little bit longer than it should, I'll let you know. And and parents were so kind. The students fell in line with that. And when that took the pressure off of, I need to grade everything 2 days right after they do it, it made things so much easier.
Oh, Shiva, I want to accentuate that point. That's so powerful. That authenticity and vulnerability, right? Because the story, like as Brene Brown says, the story that you're making up in your head prior to having those conversations with parents could be, oh my God, they're going to tell me I'm bad or wrong in some way, shape, or form for even not having my shit together.
Yeah.
Right. And yet those conversations allow you to then have what on the other side?
It allowed me to have that safety, like we talked about, to be able to focus on, like I said, what was my priority, the kids in the room, right? And also to avoid burnout, I made myself a priority. Because as teachers, we always want to give and give and give. Teacher A needs help. Teacher B needs help. I'm teacher B today. I'm teacher A today, right? I don't have time to sit and talk in the lounge or listen to you complain. I've got to make sure I'm making my copies on time. I have to make sure that, you know, I get home in enough time to be able to sit down and actually like look at my kid in the face.
Right.
Right? Make my lunch at night. That's what I had to do. I had to make, you know, I had to create a priority list, and my students and myself really had to be at the top of the list. And so often, I mean, I remember year 5 in education when I was, you know, doing all the things at school, saying no to nothing, right? Oh, I want to be a team player. And I wasn't even on the list, Sandy. I don't even know if I was a player in the game. I was a shell. Yeah. And I think that we have to know that we can take care of ourselves, and we can still be good teachers and good educators and good administrators at the same time.
So true. I have a little sticky note right in front of me. What's most important, right?
Oh, there it is.
And it is just 3 things. Like, I couldn't go into the whole diatribe of a list. It was, Sandy, what are the top 3 things that are most important in your life? My son, because if something happens, and he's 20, so he can take care of himself the majority of the time. My health, and that's my holistic health, right? Mind, body, spirit, like all of it. And then my impact, which is my work, my clients, my community, right? That's my impact, right? The impact that I have on the world. But that comes third, right? My son and my health come first. And if he were to walk in right now, he's on his way to work, so he's not walking in right now, but I would pause and I would give him a hug live while I'm doing this, because he's a priority for me. He is most important. And we all have that, and that's human. That's what it is to actually create an anti-burnout culture, is that we all take radical responsibility for who we're showing up as and the stories we're making up in our heads. And when we can own that, and we can communicate that with love and grace, should be communicated with your families. Yeah. Hey, acknowledging what's going on for them and their students. I see you as humans. I'm with you. And this is what's going on in my world. Because now you're creating that mutual humanness that allows for an environment of safety and grace. Because if we can give each other grace and see each other as humans, and we talked about this, I think it was 2 weeks ago, 60 seconds to slow time down may be all you need to create that connection. And 60 seconds can feel like an eternity. Anyone try to wall sit recently? Remember wall sits? 60 seconds of a wall sit or 60 seconds of a plank? Oh my goodness. That's a really long time. 60 seconds in a doctor's office when they're late, really long time. In the hustleness, back to us talking about the hustle culture, right? It's connected to the burnout. If we are not slowing down to connect on purpose and seeing each other as humans, seeing ourselves as humans, being able to look ourselves in the eye in the mirror and say, I see you, I love you. Close your eyes even just to feel connected to who you're showing up as. It's powerful. This is where creating an anti-burnout culture starts, is each of us taking radical responsibility and taking our power back. Because we can and we get to. No one else is going to do it for us. We can't wait for the powers that be to say, I give you permission to take your power back. We just get to do it. We just get to do it today, right now. Like, don't wait and schedule it like 3 weeks from now. Make it right now. Choose right now. So I want to leave you with this thought and a piece of homework, because we are at 25 and I promised you guys mini masterclasses. First and foremost, Shiva, thank you for your wisdom, for your brilliance, for your authenticity, for showing up. I see you and I value and I appreciate you and I adore you. I also want to encourage everyone who's watching, listening, catching the recording. I am so honored to be in community with you. And I want to nudge you and invite you to create a list for yourself that is for you. I am statements. I am an incredible educator. I am an amazing sister. I am a beautiful daughter. I am all of those things. And then I want you to add into that, I want you to fill up a whole 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, however you want, of I am statements and I have statements about what you currently have. What are you grateful for? What is currently in your environment? And if it's who you are on your best day, maybe it's not today, but I have a positive classroom environment. I have a healthy workplace. I have a team I love. All of those things I want you to list, and I want you to post that list in your bathroom. And I want you to read it as you're getting ready every morning, as you're brushing your teeth, as you're doing whatever. It is a gift to yourself to anchor in to who you are as the unique, amazing human that you are, because you are freaking worth it. And I adore you and I love you and I appreciate you. I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day, and we will see you next Thursday. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Happy Thursday.
Bye, everyone. Happy Thursday.